Good morning, everybody. Not going to be late today. I'm sorry about that last show. I do apologize. Wednesday's show, I was 2 minutes late. Hate when that happens. Not today. Not today. Not today. Lot to talk about. We are going to have trolls in the audience today. There's been a very consequential news day. Very, very damaging for Republicans. They're also trying to run a psyop right now on Fani Willis. So there will be trolls today. I actually just banned one on the way into the door. So yeah, they are going to be here today. So let's go ahead and get started. Lots to talk about today. Stick with me, folks. Oh, by the way, reach down and hit that thumbs up button. Let's get this live audience as big as we possibly can. That's what that thumbs up button does. Lets everybody know you're having a good time and gets YouTube to offer the show to more people. Let's get this live audience as big as possible. Hit that thumbs up. Good morning, my people. Hope your day is as good as mine. Hope your coffee is as good as mine. Man, it is hitting the spot this morning. I've been up since 3:30 this morning. Had a bad dream about somebody I really dearly love more than life itself, and I just wasn't able to get back to sleep. One of them days. Anyways, folks, I want to set the tone right out the door. Marcia Klepper, thank you. I do appreciate you. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. I want to set the tone. We are going to get some trolls in here today. I just want to remind you, don't engage with them. Don't worry about them. Ignore them. This is the kind of people we're dealing with when we have trolls. Republican candidate charged with murdering cancer-stricken wife in primary. That's the kind of person we're dealing with. That's 1 second. There you go. Got the mic fixed. Apologize. We are talking about Andrew Wilhoit from Indiana. He and I'm muted, huh? Well, let's check it. All right. Do we have feed? Yeah, we do. All right. Cool. Can you hear me now? Are we still having technical difficulties? How about now? Better? Well, actually, we had a software update yesterday, and every time you get a software update, it's an XLR system. It's going to be difficult. All right. We just had to turn the gain up a little bit. Nice new mic, takes quite a bit of power to run. But yeah, I just wanted to set the mood when we got started. I shared with you Andrew Wilhoit murdered his wife. He is in prison being tried. He's wearing an orange jumpsuit, and Republicans still looked at him in Indiana and said, "That's my guy." He won his primary. Republicans took one look at him and said, "That's my guy." That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with these trolls that come in here. So just please ignore them. We're not going to deal with that. We're just going to move on. We'll catch them as we can, kick them out. But no, we don't deal with those. We've got some breaking news before we get into the winners and losers from yesterday. We've got, yesterday was just huge. We had Comer and Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene lose. Fani Willis absolutely won yesterday. That was a huge day for her. She dropped the mic. She's not even testifying today. Everything went so well for her. And we have Trump, who was just a major loser yesterday and is set to lose again today when Judge Engoron releases his decision. And then by far the biggest winner yesterday was Joe Biden. But we'll get into all that in a minute. We've got a little bit of breaking news I want you to know about. This is going to be a developing story, folks. We don't have all of it. There is more to this. The top doctor for CBP tried to order fentanyl lollipops for a helicopter mission in New York, whistleblower says. This is just breaking. Dr. Alexander Eastman. He's the top doctor he's the chief medical officer for Customs and Border Protection. Tried to order fentanyl lollipops to take to a UN Assembly meeting of all places. Why do you need fentanyl lollipops to go to the UN Assembly? There's more to that story. He was already under investigation for trying to secure narcotics for a pilot friend of his, a helicopter pilot friend of his. And then this comes out during the investigation. He tried to explain it away by saying, well, if anybody was injured, any CBP personnel were injured in this UN meeting, the fentanyl lollipops would serve as pain suppressant. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, folks. It's used in hospitals. It's not like, heroin or anything like that. They talk about it like it's an illicit drug. It is a pharmaceutical. But yeah, there's definitely more to that, and we'll keep an eye on it and get back to you with more of that. But that was just crazy. The other breaking news is, do you remember that movie 2000 Mules? That Dinesh D'Souza trash? Well, Brad Raffensperger down there in Georgia, the Secretary of State down in Georgia, really was having none of all of these accusations. He's really taken this personally. He has the attacks on the election. He's really taken this personally. They are actually holding hearings in court about the election, and he is one by one pulling these groups up. And yesterday was Dinesh D'Souza's day in the barrel and his 2000 Mules garbage. And the group that movie was based on, True the Vote from down here in Texas, was forced by the judge to divulge any evidence they have to support their claims. They responded that they have nothing. They've got nothing. It was all made up. All of it. All of it. Just made up. Trash. All the stuff that Trump's been talking about for the ballot stuffing and all, made up. Every one of these news organizations, Fox, Newsmax, all of them have all been screaming this stuff from the rafters that, it's the reason we've got these idiots sitting outside ballot boxes with AR-15s. All of it. All made up. That's from Newsmax, folks. Conservative, they didn't name True the Vote because, that's their people. A conservative group has told a Georgia judge that it doesn't have evidence to support its claims of illegal ballot stuffing during the 2020 general election and runoff 2 months later. Yeah, that's great, folks. That's great. That's what we've been telling you. That's what we've been telling you. We have some more breaking news. Vladimir Putin murdered Alexei Navalny yesterday. Day before yesterday, Alexei Navalny, if you may recognize him, he is the opposition leader in Russia. When he got within a hair of defeating Putin, Putin poisoned him. When that didn't stop him, he trumped up charges and jailed him. When that didn't kill his popularity, he moved him to a jail recently in the Arctic Circle in Siberia, within the Arctic Circle. He had a hearing day before yesterday where he was laughing and smiling, but yesterday he dropped dead. Putin murdered him. That's what happened. He has actually been confirmed dead. He is no longer with us. So yeah, that's what's been happening on that front. So let's get to it. Let's get to the winners and losers of yesterday. I wanted to give you a little bit of background information as we start talking about these winners and losers. I don't mean to be cryptic, but I want you to just have a frame of reference here. Elon Musk says he's probably not the richest man in the world. Putin is significantly richer than me. That has been an open fact for a long time. Putin, by far, and I don't mean by a little bit, by far, is the wealthiest man on the planet. What a lot of people don't know is how he got his money. How is he got it the old-fashioned way, by stealing gas and oil. During the fall of the Soviet Union, you hear me talk about the crazy times, just the free-for-all that happened after the fall of the Soviet Union when Putin first came into power. He, like others, like Oleg, you hear me tell the story about Oleg Deripaska all the time. Oleg Deripaska was a straight-up Russian gangster. And when the Soviet Union fell, they just went to the world's largest aluminum factory with their AK-47s, set up camp. Oleg Deripaska said, "This is mine now. The state's collapsed. The state doesn't own this. I own this now." And to this day, the whole world just shrugged and said, "Okay, you own it." Russia said, "Not worth the fight." And Oleg Deripaska is the world's largest manufacturer of aluminum to this day. He is one of Putin's supporters, one of Putin's oligarchs. Well, Putin wasn't just going to watch this free-for-all. I mean, he was the government. It was his job to actually step in while this was going on. But of course, he didn't. He joined them. Putin took control of Gazprom, the state's largest oil and gas company. He got a loyalist. He put a loyalist in charge of Gazprom. And what was going on after the Soviet Union collapsed in Ukraine? Because remember, Ukraine was the jewel of the Soviet Union. It was not Russia and Moscow. The best industry, science, the best, as you can see, the best soldiers and fighting units and everything was in Ukraine. The pride of their navy was the Black Sea Fleet. That was in Ukraine. When the Soviet Union collapsed and Ukraine became independent, a bunch of oligarchs got together and they would steal gas and oil from Gazprom and they would sell it in Europe. And they were making a fortune doing this. And the Russians' first reaction to this was to they charged them extra. When they would legitimately sell oil and gas to Ukraine, they would just charge them extra to make up for what was stolen. Well, Putin said, "Well, I want in on this. I want in on this. This is just too much money." And they set up a business called Rosukar Energo, or RUE for short, because that's a mouthful to say. And this company would take oil and gas. Initially, they were just taking it, oil and gas from Gazprom, and they would sell it in Europe for a massive profit. And of course, the people of Europe would end up getting soaked in their gas and oil bills. That's where the money was actually coming from, was the people of Europe. For those in my European audience that are listening to this, your pocket is where this money came from. But Putin wanted his taste. So when they set up RUE, they set it up where Gazprom, who's funneling money to Putin, owned half. The other half was owned by this guy, Dmitry Firtash. This guy. And he quickly became a billionaire. This is Putin's guy in Ukraine. He's Ukrainian, by the way, Ukrainian oligarch. This was Putin's guy. He made sure Putin got his cut. And they eventually became a legitimate company that was buying oil and gas and selling it. So RUE just became huge. And that's how Putin became the richest man on the face of the planet. So let's put a pin in that. What happened yesterday that gets us here? Well, we had a bit of breaking news. You've heard Kentucky Fried Comer talking about one of our biggest losers yesterday, James Comer, Jimmy Jordan, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. They've all been talking about how, the Biden crime family, Biden's taking bribes. Well, all that fell apart yesterday. The entire impeachment inquiry fell apart yesterday. I did a story on this, the fact that this was nothing but a house of cards for Midas Touch last year, when the Republicans were trying to get their hands on what's called a 1023. There is a Putin-controlled Russian by the name of Alexander Smirnov, and that's who was just arrested yesterday. That's why this has collapsed. He was arrested for making false statements to the FBI. He was sent to do this. He was sent to attack Joe Biden for Donald Trump during the election. Nobody took him seriously. This was when Bill Barr was running the DOJ. Nobody took him seriously. Nobody, Bill Barr wouldn't touch with this with a 10-foot pole, because what this guy was saying never added up. You could not connect the dots. Bill Barr knew he would humiliate himself if he ran with this. But somebody went to the Republicans, Jimmy Comer, Jimmy Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and said, this 1023 exists. You need to get it. This is testimony from this guy to an FBI agent that he was at a meeting where they discussed Biden getting bribes. And when all this was going down last year, I did a piece for Midas. I explained to people, no, the FBI does not release 1023s. Folks, 1023s, that's a notebook. It's just a notebook. If you sit down and you talk to an FBI agent, after that meeting, they're going to take notes during the meeting, but after that meeting, they're going to sit down, they're going to fill out a 1023. And all it is a contemporaneous recording of shit you told him. It's not evidence. It's not proof. So when they sat down with Alexander Smirnov, who's now a proven liar, they knew he was a liar then. They sat down, they listened to what he said, they wrote out a 1023 with everything he said. Then they went back and they checked it. And it did not pan out. Let me give you an example of why it didn't pan out. He said that he was in a meeting with this guy, which didn't make any sense considering who he was. This is Mykola Zolochevsky, or Mykola Zolochevsky. This is the founder of Burisma. You've heard about Burisma over and over and over again. This is the founder. This is the guy, Mykola Zolochevsky. Alexander Smirnov says that he's in a meeting with Zolochevsky in Vienna where they discussed Lisa Phillips, I love it. Actually, he's not a very scary guy. He's not. He's a doughboy. He's not dangerous at all. Where they discussed, Zolochevsky just volunteered to him that he bribed Joe Biden via Hunter Biden for $5 million. I mean, like he would just volunteer this, but anyways, he says he's Ukrainian, by the way. Robin says he looks Russian. He's Ukrainian, and another Ukrainian oligarch, but these are Putin loyalists. Says that he bribed Joe Biden to protect him. Well, the problem is the minute the FBI heard this, they're like, dates don't add up. They just don't. First of all, Biden's not in power when he says that this happened. Biden is not in office. He can protect no one. There's no guarantee he was going to become president, folks. He was out during the Trump presidencies when this supposedly went on. So the FBI said, this is crap. And the second thing is they said, when this meeting went on, this guy Zolochevsky wasn't in Vienna. He wasn't. He was hiding in Latvia, and they know he was hiding in Latvia because everybody was trying to arrest him for bribery charges. But you know who was in Vienna for that meeting? Dmitry Firtash, Putin's guy. So the FBI knew this. They knew this was garbage. Nothing added up about it. But when the FBI sits down with someone and has a meeting, they write down what you say. Even if you're lying, they want to keep track of what you're saying. Well, somebody told the Republicans about this 1023, and they told them what was in it. And they demanded it. And you'll remember, if you search your memory, back when I was doing this report for Midas, it was the Republicans calling the FBI, oh, they're crooked. They're crooked because they will not even, we know this evidence is out there. We know there's evidence. They will not turn over the notes. They will not turn over the 1023s. And the FBI resisted because, no, you don't make this kind of stuff public because it is not evidence. And they knew this would happen because this is what Fox News has spent the last half a year saying. Joe Biden allegedly paid $5 million by Burisma executive as part of bribery scheme, according to FBI documents. You get that? According to FBI documents? Man, doesn't that sound like evidence to you? Doesn't that sound like evidence to you? It's an FBI document. And that's what they wanted. That's the narrative they wanted. Everyone knew it was crap. It was completely debunked. But Sean Hannity ran with this 85 times in the last 6 months. I want you to think about that. 85 times he ran with this when it was complete crap. It was complete trash. Every time Comer said there was evidence, he would allude to the fact that it was Alexander Smirnov. Their entire house of cards just collapsed. And the interesting part about this is that they actually charged him. They actually arrested him and charged him for making false statements. See, this guy was an informant, and they don't normally do that. It's extremely rare that they would do that with an informant. And that's the nice little bow that you put on the end of this story. Is David Weiss, the special counsel, David Weiss, the one that is prosecuting Hunter Biden, is the one that had him arrested and is charging Alexander Smirnov with false statements. Why? Well, they arrested him flying in from Russia to Harry Reid Airport in Las Vegas. Why was he coming back into the country? To do exactly what the FBI warned him 5 times never to do again. Do not make false statements. See, they didn't just let him go. They kept an eye on him. And they know that in all the times he would come back, he would call the FBI and he would say, I have information for you. But before he did that, from the first time to the second time, he's meeting with Russian agents. And he has confessed to meeting with Russian agents to change his story because it never added up. The dates never added up. And Republicans knew this. Folks, I want you to think about that for just a second. Just how much Comer is a loser here. Someone fed the Republicans that information. The Republicans knew that information was false. Do you think Bill Barr didn't tell him why he wouldn't touch this? I mean, do you think Bill Barr, out of the goodness of his heart, said, just give old Biden a pass? No, he told them. They knew this was crap, and they knew he was flying in to the country yesterday to feed them more crap. Do you know what the news would have been? You know what the corporate media is. Do you know what the news would have been next week if they had not arrested this guy and charged him for lying to the FBI? It would have just been another series of lies that the Republicans, Marjorie Taylor Greene would have been on her podcast talking about, we have evidence, which they don't. Folks, Joe Biden was the biggest winner yesterday because his impeachment inquiry just died. Just died. Well, folks, we also had a hell of a deal We're waiting on Judge Ingeron. We haven't heard anything from that. Kind of keep track of that with me, folks, if you can. While I'm doing the show, it's impossible for me to keep track of. If Ingeron goes live, let me know. But we had Fani Willis testifying yesterday, and I want to tell you, folks, I have never been more disgusted in my life. Gina Lawton says, hard truths are kicking repugs' butts. You love it. Yeah. Amen, sister. Amen. We had Fani Willis testify yesterday, and she was nothing short of amazing. Amazing. But before we get into her testimony, I want to clarify something. There is nothing improper about her relationship with Nathan Wade. Nothing. If they were dating today, it wouldn't be improper. You know, there are relationships that are improper in court cases. You know, there are. RS, I appreciate you, man. He says, love you, brother. Got to go to work. Vote blue. Hey, I'm glad you could be here. I'm glad you could be here. Thank you for the support. But there are relationships. There are relationships that are inappropriate. And you can imagine a judge and a prosecutor having a relationship during a trial. That would be completely inappropriate. The judge has to remain neutral, or a judge and a defense attorney. That would be improper. But two prosecutors dating each other, what's improper about that? Nothing at all. In fact, the attorney that the right wing were just screaming, they were just going to bring down Fani Willis, the attorney that was Ashley Merchant. Yeah, she's married to John Merchant, another attorney working on the case. They're married. And you want to know what's inappropriate about that? Not a damn thing. And I will not cede to people. I keep getting people on the left that keep saying, well, she should have known better. Just even the optics are bad. There's no bad optics. There's no bad optics. There is absolutely nothing inappropriate about this. That's why when testimony was given yesterday, she absolutely chose to sit down and take any questions that they had. And I am so glad that she did. I am so glad that she did. These defense attorneys took a disgruntled former employee and former friend of Fani Willis, who was pissed off, that disputed the date that they started dating, which again doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if they're dating. So the date they're dating doesn't matter either. They were sent interrogatories. That's just a list of questions. And they both answered. They started dating, they believed, in 2022. Well, this lady said, oh, no, they dated in 2019. What do you mean? Well, I saw them hug and kiss. Well, one, she's a disgruntled employee. And two, it doesn't matter. The two people involved in this relationship says, no, the relationship started in 2022. Then she embarrassed the lawyers because in 2019, there was a reason they were not engaged in a relationship. He had cancer in his nether regions and was undergoing cancer treatment. So, yeah, they couldn't have been in flagrante. It was just ridiculous, the questions, the personal questions that came out. Then they tried to make a big deal, and she did. Radka Hunter, forgive me for looking down. I'm reading your comments as we go. She did. She smoked him. She absolutely did. They tried to make a big deal. They kept talking about these hordes of cash because there's a psyop going on the right that we're just going to dismiss here in a minute. these hordes of cash. Why did you pay cash? Well, one, it's American currency. It's written on the bills, good for all debts, public and private. But I want you to keep track as we go far forward and talk about this. It really was. It made me angry. It made me angry. That comment was fact, Neurograzer says it was glorious to watch, but I mean, her testimony was fantastic. I really loved the things she said and the way she stood up. And we're going to get into some of it right now, but it infuriated me because it was so rude and inappropriate. And it was obvious by these questions that each of these lawyers were competing to try to be the talking point on Fox News that night. That's what these questions were about. The way these questions were framed were not for the judge, because this was just a hearing, folks. Remember, just a hearing. This judge, he understands this situation. That was the target audience, or should have been, but it wasn't. They were trying to get on Fox News. And you could tell by the questions, because there's a narrative being sold over at Fox right now. And there's a psyop being pushed on social media. The trolls are pushing it. And this is the big conspiracy theory. Fani Willis hired Nathan Wade to funnel him state money so that he could take her on trips. That's the conspiracy theory. I am not kidding. That's what old Jesse Waters ran with last night. That's what they're pushing today. That's what they're on social media trying to say today. First of all, let me tell you why you can dismiss that out of hand. The money working as a DA or a prosecutor ain't that good. It's really not. Both of these people are far more successful in their private practices. In fact, part of Fani Willis's testimony was this hurt for her to take the job as the DA. She had to spend her own money to run for this job and take a pay cut. Nathan Wade is far more successful in private practice than he is working as a prosecutor. So if their goal was to take trips, why do it this way where they make less money? Why? It makes no sense. So yeah, I dismiss that out of hand. I dismiss it out of hand. But before I do, I want to lay this out for you. Why would this fly? Because Republicans are racist and misogynist. And to a Republican, yeah, it fits their narrative to say a black person couldn't just be an exceptional prosecutor. Nathan Wade, and Fani Willis will tell you, Nathan Wade was her mentor. He's an exceptional prosecutor. That's why he was hired. He is destroying Donald Trump. That's why they want him removed. But it sure fits their racist narrative to say he's there for nothing more than to get some freebies off the state. Because that's what they're saying. That's what this whole narrative is. Tantamount to welfare. That's what they're selling over on Fox News. Not that he's an exceptional prosecutor. No, this guy just got given a gimme job. He got a gimme job that a white person could have had. Just so he could take her on trips. Not that she is an incredibly effective district attorney. No, that's all straight racism right there and misogyny. And I love in her testimony yesterday when she laid out, sorry, no man is a plan. A man is a companion. He did not pay my way for anything. And they tried to make it sound nefarious. She's like, well, when y'all took a cruise together, who paid for it? He said, he paid for his, I paid for mine. Oh, when he booked that cruise, you paid or he paid? Who paid? And what they were trying to say, get her to say, is that he initially paid because he had the cruise agent. So he initially paid on his credit card and she paid him cash. Folks, let me tell you something. I just took a cruise. I've taken cruise with family before. I've taken cruise with friends before. I get exceptional deals on cruises for various reasons. I booked the cruises and they pay me back. And they pay me back in cash. That's American currency, folks. I've had a family member book me a cruise before. When Mrs. Texas Paula and I went to Alaska, another family member booked that cruise. We paid them back in cash. Nothing nefarious about it. That's what she did. He booked the cruise. She paid him in cash. And they tried to make a big deal about the fact that she actually had the cash on hand. Again, more racism, more misogyny. Tried to say, oh, weren't you broke? You said in a book that you were broke. And she said that relative to her opinion, she was broke because she just spent $50,000 on a campaign and that hurt. But broke is relative, people. I know folks that aren't making it to payday. That's broke. That's broke. Somebody that can put $50,000 into their own campaign ain't broke. And that was the point she made on the stand. And they said, well, why, I doubt that they called her a liar, saying that she didn't have that cash. They as much told the judge when the objection started flying. What are you getting at? What are you trying to say? Well, we don't think she had that cash. What? And that was, this was her response. I'm so glad. I love you folks. Neurogeezer again, her dad taught her to always have cash on hand. But more than that, the point I made earlier, if you are a lawyer, if you are a prosecutor, if you are a bail bondsman or a cop, if you work in the justice system at all, talk to anyone that does. They all keep cash as a practice. Every one of those attorneys talking to her about having cash like it was somehow nefarious. Why didn't you use Cash App or Venmo? You keep that cash on hand. Every one of those attorneys have a stack of cash. I would speculate $10,000 to $50,000 in cash on hand. You know why? Because every one of them are lawyers, and they know the first thing that happens if the government ever moves against you is your accounts get locked, seized, and you have to fight to get them back. So every one of those lawyers that were asking those questions about her paying in cash have cash on hand. All of them. Peter Campbell says the mudslingers wanted us to believe pay equals payback. Cash equals tax evasion. Relationship equals adultery. Exactly. It was all a smear job. They were all asking questions like, did Nathan Wade lay his head on your pillow at this residence? What a way to ask the question. Referring it to her hoard of cash, like there's something wrong with it. And I loved the responses I got to that from African-American women where you better believe she has cash. It is a cultural thing. I had so many black women tell me yesterday, black women keep cash on hand. Even if you're married, you keep cash on hand. But just the way they treated her, the questions they asked her, it was despicable. I was furious. But the job she did just nailing these people, she would not let them go. She would grab a hold of them with every question and just drag them through each false allegation they had made in the motion that they filed to cause this hearing. She drug out in the open yesterday. She called several of them directly to their faces. You are a liar, and this is why. This is what you said, and you are a liar. And the judge just had to sit there and let it happen because they opened the door to this. And I just want to say, Fani Willis yesterday, I know no one that watched that did not walk away just absolutely adoring Fani Willis for standing up for herself and not taking that misogynist, racist crap. But what was ignored and what really got me yesterday, because there was some absolute crime that could have been reported. Stick with me, folks. Just stay with me. Stay with me. Sherry Foster, you don't go outdoor without cash. That's just dumb, plain and simple. I know, right? Once you get to the point where you're not living paycheck to paycheck, the first thing you do is you put mad money away. But I would tell you, they missed the crime. Let me tell you what's been going on. Nathan Wade, over the last 10 years, has been paid $10 million to recruit lawyers for law firms in cases that Fani Willis is hearing, that she's prosecuting. Did you hear me? Nathan Wade has been working as a headhunter, has been recruiting lawyers for law firms that have cases that Fani Willis is prosecuting. And that just totally escaped everything. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I got that wrong. That is Jane Roberts and John Roberts. See, Jane Roberts here has spent the last 10 years working as a recruiter and hiring attorneys for law firms with cases before her husband's Supreme Court. And she's been paid $10 million. But Republicans want to talk about a $2,500 cruise, saying that that's inappropriate. That's just inappropriate. I got you, didn't I, Steve McLeod? I got you. I just, when you put it in perspective like that. Yeah, I understand. They were calling her dad and asking him about property that she owned, and stupid. There's nothing to be gained from that at all. At all. They're all competing for. Meanwhile, Crystal Nobody says many white women who have been in past abusive relationships keep cash on hand. Abusers use money to trap their victims. Absolutely. absolutely, it was despicable the way they were attacking her for having cash. It's just stupid. People, once you get to the point where you're not living paycheck to paycheck anymore, I will tell you, anybody that came up that way, living paycheck to paycheck, the first thing they do is they put some cash away, because they've had those situations where things happen and you did not have the means. That is a hard pill to swallow. And anybody that has lived paycheck to paycheck puts cash away as soon as they can. But folks, we can spot inappropriateness. They're saying, oh, well, this stupid narrative, this stupid, just idiotic narrative that they're pushing about, oh, she hired him so that he can take her on trips. Well, this trip seems important in that context. This trip seems important in that context. See that guy in the middle right there with the cap and the sunglasses on? That's Samuel Alito from the Supreme Court. Justice Samuel Alito. And this guy on the right, well, that's Paul Singer. And you folks that are longtime audience members have heard me talk about Paul Singer before, but I'll remind your memory. Paul Singer is the guy they call the doomsday investor. He made a huge chunk of money. He bought $11 billion in bonds, Peruvian bonds, the nation of Peru. Peru went belly up. It defaulted. Its bonds became virtually worthless. This guy bought the equivalent of $11 billion worth of those defaulted on bonds, and then proceeded to sue Peru in every single thing they did. He sued them. Now, mind you, this is a nation trying to take care of its people that has gone insolvent, trying to get back on its feet. This guy bought up their debt, and just like every shitty debt collector story you've ever heard of, just sued the living crap out of Peru in every court in every first world nation, to the point where they could not do business until they paid him blood money. That's how he made a big chunk. That's Paul Singer for you. He's also the guy that is the tallest hog at the trough at the Manhattan Institute, which you've heard me talk about, which is where old Christopher Rufo is from, which funds all that CRT nonsense, all these right-wing talking points, one right after the other. When the George Floyd murder happened, they were the folks that were running the backlash to that. Yeah, that's the guy. But, there's old Justice Alito took a free private jet ride from D.C. to Alaska. Do you know how much that costs? That ain't no $2,500 cruise, folks. Stayed at a resort in Alaska. Let me tell you, I've taken an Alaska vacation before. That ain't cheap, people. That is really expensive. Stayed at a resort, had guided fishing trips to hang out with old Paul Singer. But, hey, Fani Willis has a boyfriend, which isn't inappropriate. That's racism for you, folks. That is racism for you. Got old Clarence Thomas here. Took his trip on old Harlan Crow's yacht, private jet rides, stayed in luxury resorts. Right-wingers got nothing to say about that. Not a thing at all to say about that. People have cases before his court. He's not recusing himself. His wife is involved in the January 6th insurrection, and Clarence Thomas is not recusing himself in broad daylight in front of us all, is raising his middle finger to all of us. And they want to talk about Fani Willis because she's got a boyfriend? Had a boyfriend. They're not boyfriend and girlfriend anymore. God bless her. She said, this guy wants a wife that'll make him a sandwich. That ain't who I am. He hit the bricks. That came out on the sand yesterday. Why did you break up? She had to explain to the American people why she ended a relationship. That is just so damn. I was furious by the time that was over. I was just furious by the time that was over. But that wasn't the only news that we had. Judge Juan Merchan ruined Donald Trump's year. New York Judge Juan Merchan set a trial date. To refresh your memory, this is the hush money trial. This is the trial that's being tried by Alvin Bragg up in Manhattan. I remember Alvin Bragg. They've been putting pressure on Juan Merchan to delay that trial, and he has resisted. He came out and made a statement saying he's glad he didn't, given seeing what's happened in the Chutkan case and what's happened in the documents case. He's glad he didn't delay the trial because there's plenty of time for it now. That's a old double-edged sword. That's why you have Eileen Cannon down in Florida is backpedaling on some of her delays, because since she has not made a written order in the case, when the Supreme Court kicks the immunity case back to, and they are not going to give Donald Trump immunity, folks. They are not going to give Donald Trump immunity, because what that means is they give Joe Biden immunity. And they're not going to do that. So when that kicks back to Chutkan, Chutkan can say, okay, let's do the trial now. Nothing's happening in Florida. She hasn't issued a written ruling. Well, Eileen Cannon is holding some new hearings, and we're going to see a ruling. She's going to try to hold on to that block of time that she has parsed out for her trial. You watch. She's backpedaling right now as it happens. You're going to see. We'll be talking about that next week. But the case up in New York, just a refresher what that's all about. That is the hush money case. Here's the cliff notes of it. The guy in the middle here, the former guy, Mango Mussolini, paid these two women for sex. The one on the right is a Playboy centerfold model. Her name's Karen McDougal. The one on your left there, of course, you recognize as Stormy McDaniels. That piece of crap in the middle calls Stormy McDaniels a horse face. Yeah, real class dude. Real class dude. Because all hell had broken loose in the 2016 campaign, because of the Access Hollywood tapes, Donald Trump sat on this bus and told Billy Bush in a hot mic, and when you're the star, they let you do it. You can do anything, whatever you want. Grab them by the, you got it. You can do anything. Then proceeded to tell a story how he moved on an associate's wife, moved on her like a bitch. That's what he said. So they needed to kill these stories. There was the Stormy Daniels story that he paid $130,000 in hush money. Rick Cuevas' hush money case is actually also the 2016 election interference case. Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. paid $150,000 to Karen McDougal. Then he also paid $30,000 to a doorman, a former doorman at the Trump Tower, who had a story about an illegitimate child. Now, Donald Trump, I'm speculating here, but I'm guessing Donald Trump didn't pay that guy $30,000 for nothing. I want to know about that illegitimate child. I want to know if Donald Trump is paying child support. I want to know if Donald Trump is caring for this child. Because I assure you, this guy did not have a lie, and they paid him $30,000. I want to know about that. But why this is a crime is they falsified business records to cover up these payments. And the reason they covered up these payments is they would be considered campaign donations. See, it was the parent company, the Inquirer, that paid the $150,000. That would be considered a campaign contribution. And that type of contribution to pay for that kind of thing is illegal under federal law. It's illegal to pay somebody hush money under campaign law. You cannot do that. Now, you could do it in your private life. You can pay somebody not to tell their story. That's fine. But if you're running for president, then it becomes a campaign contribution, which is an illegal contribution. And since they lied in their business records, claiming that this was income for people that were paying these things out, they have 34 felonies, Class E felonies, to account for. And this, folks, is an easy case. This is not a hard case. They open the books. Every legal eagle I've seen talk about this says this is a 6-week case max. And they set a court date of March 25th. That means by the end of April, Donald Trump is going to be a convict. 34 felonies by the end of April. This case is open and shut. They open the books, they point to the jury, and they say, this is where it was paid. This is where it said it was a paycheck for Michael Cohen. It was not a paycheck for Michael Cohen, which means it was also tax fraud. So, yeah, Donald Trump has had a very, very bad week, but I really don't care because this is the guy and this is the kind of thing that I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about Joe Biden's old. I want to talk about the fact that Donald Trump followed this woman into the dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman department store in the lingerie section. What the hell was he doing creeping in the lingerie section? Followed her into the dressing room. When she opened her dressing room door, shoved her in, pushed her against the wall, banging her head against the wall. Starts forcibly kissing her. Forcibly kissing her, reaches under her dress, pulls her tights down, and shoves his finger up her vagina while she's trying to fight him off. She finally gets a knee up and pushes him off and runs out. But Joe Biden's old. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about all this. This is not going to be 2016. We're not going to play the narratives that the Republicans want to talk about. We're going to talk about it the way it is. And believe me, Donald Trump is falling apart. This is the kind of thing he's just putting out raging, whatever you call him over there on his failing social media platform, over and over and over. He is literally falling apart. Let me read this to you. Slimeball Adams Shifty Shift. This guy's running for president. Keep that in mind. This is a man who wants to be president. Slimeball Adams Shifty Shift. Let me do the impression. Slimeball Adams Shifty Shift. One of the true lowlifes in the history of politics in America is running for the U.S. Senate in California, a state for which he has done nothing but escalate violent crime. Crime is falling, by the way. Violent crime destroyed by allowing millions of illegal migrants. Yeah, even Greg Abbott is saying there's nobody crossing. He's trying to take credit for it. Push the Green New Scam and all electric car mandate. Perpetuate the homeless crisis and crime. Defund the police. The police are making more than ever. Defund the police. Be bad to our military and vets. Trump treated vets like shit, called them suckers and losers, did nothing in the VA. And stop water from freely flowing into the state from up north. I guess I don't even know what the hell that means. Other than that, and his authorship of the failed and fully debunked Russia hoax, which has been totally proven and vindicated, Pencil Neck is a wonderful guy. Sadly, but between rank no choice voting and unlimited number of mail-in ballots, see 2,000 mules getting shredded in court, mail-in ballots pouring into places unknown to people that sometimes receive mini ballots to fill out and send back at will. The only people that have been convicted of doing that are Republicans, and they don't get mini ballots. They take their elderly families' ballots, fill them out, and forge them. Again, the only people that have been arrested for doing that, or convicted of doing that, are Republicans. At will, Californians are screwed. Make America great again. This guy wants to be president, and he's writing shit like this on the daily, multiple times a day. He is losing his damn mind. And Fox, they're freaking out. And I got to tell you, folks, we're going to have to do this ourselves. We are. We're going to have to do this ourselves. Because MSNBC had this nutball, Caroline Polisi. They had her on. Before she comes on MSNBC, she puts this tweet out after watching just a fraction of Fani Willis's testimony. She puts this tweet out. And kudos to Brett Marcellus over at Midas Touch for catching that she actually deleted this. She puts out, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade lied in court, which they did not. Game over. The case is dead. Then she goes on to MSNBC and says a modified version of that if they lied in court, then they would be removed, not the case is dead. You know, folks, this is who she is. She's the one that represented George Papadopoulos. George Papadopoulos deserved his pardon. Here's why. And MSNBC is having her on as a contributor, and after getting called out for that, they had her on again this morning. We're going to have to do it ourselves, folks. We're going to have to do it ourselves. We just are. And on that note, Ron Filipkowski. I've told you about that before. Ron Filipkowski. Follow that guy on XChan and Threads. He's on both. Follow him. Great source of information. Put notifications out. He is the editor in chief over at Midas Touch. Great guy. Somebody a little less known, good friend of mine, goes by the handle Care Bear. I have known her for years, going way back to when I first got my start on TikTok. I have her number is in my phone. We actually speak. I know this person. She has great insights. She's the person that came up with, this is her feed on XChan. Give her a follow. I've got a video that I want to play for you, but she's the person that came up with this outstanding meme when all the stuff about Joe Biden's age came out. I'm scrolling down here. This meme has just been everywhere. It went viral. Everybody, I mean, great point, but they're both old, both so old, Emperor Palpatine and Yoda. She's the one that nailed that. She's the one that came with that. She goes by the handle Care Bear. Name's Carrie. She's very, very smart, very witty. Love her testimony. She found this guy, and this is why you should follow her, because she's like me. She goes out and she finds other people that are saying things and elevates them so that you can see them. I want you to see, this is the best take I have seen out of just about anybody on the Joe Biden age situation.
Democrats are not in denial about Joe Biden's age, okay? Let's talk about it. So sick of this lazy media narrative that we keep coming
One
back.
second. For whatever reason.
You're not going to hear me or any other Democrat say otherwise.
The audio is not coming through? Oh, great.
Arguably looks much less healthy than Joe Biden. And Democrats...
1 second.
Democrats are not... Democrats are not in denial of age, okay? Let's talk about it, because I
wouldn't you know
so
it?
Sick of this lazy media narrative.
I really wanted to end with this video. I hope we can get the audio to work. Hold
Democrats are not in denial about Joe Biden's age, okay? Let's talk about
I just listened to it this morning.
Sick of this lazy media narrative that we keep
Nope.
coming back. Joe Biden.
XChan is busted. Anyways, he has a great take. And it was really refreshing to hear it. Oh, I'm sorry. I deleted it. I couldn't hear it. I thought you couldn't hear it either. I apologize. His take was, and it's really fantastic. Let me actually pull it up. I can find it again. I can find it for you again. Won't take me but a second. Like I said, I know Care Bear. I follow her. It was easy for me to find. You should follow her also. She's just fantastic. Here we go. Got it back up for you. Okay. All right. Let's share. Sorry for the delay. Here we go.
Are not in denial about Joe Biden's age, okay? Let's talk about it, because I am so sick of this lazy media narrative that we keep coming back to. Joe Biden is old. You're not going to hear me or any other Democrat say otherwise. Donald Trump is also old and arguably looks much less healthy than Joe Biden. And
you guys getting the audio off that?
Activities that would prolong health. Here's a hot take. It is actually everyone else who is in denial about the reality that we exist in right now. Here's what people are in denial about. They're in denial that Donald Trump stands a real chance about getting reelected in 2024 despite his 91 felony counts. They are in denial that Joe Biden, despite his age, is still the best positioned person on the planet to stop Donald Trump from getting reelected in 2024. And by the way, to those who disagree with that assertion, you haven't made the case. You have had years to make your case of who is a better positioned person to defeat Donald Trump. Who's better than an incumbent president who can run on a strong economy, who 81 million Americans already voted for, who's been tested, vetted for decades and decades and decades? You got nothing. That person doesn't exist. That's why. At some point in time, it just becomes unhelpful to talk about. And that's what people are reacting to. Especially when there is so much to talk about, to keep talking about the same narrative and story would drive any rational person insane. There are different phases of executing a plan, a strategy, an approach, whatever you want to call it. Probably come across it in your work environment at some point. There's the brainstorming phase, where a bunch of people throw out ideas. Now, bad leaders in this type of situation will say, don't criticize an idea in this
Makes a great point, doesn't he?
You have a better one. And I hate that way of thinking because it's really important to know everything you're up against, every blind spot, every potential for failure at that brainstorming and early phase. But then something changes and you start to execute the plan. You've decided on an idea and your team is working towards accomplishing that goal. Imagine you're about to launch a product and it's going to be blue. Somebody on the team says, but not everybody likes blue. Valid point. Let's consider it. And yet, at the end of the day, the team agrees we're going forward with this blue product. Everybody, all hands on deck, starts to execute this plan. You're making and selling this product now. It's no longer helpful for that employee to chime in every day and saying, but some people don't like blue, but some people don't like blue, but some people don't like blue. What value does that add? Absolutely nothing. And nobody else on the team is in denial for saying, let's stop talking about that. We are 9 months away from this election. Joe Biden is the candidate. At this point, either you're working to make his candidacy a success or you're not helping. You're not better than anyone or smarter than anyone at this phase for saying Joe Biden is old. You're just standing in the way of success. And what success is in this case is stopping the return of Donald Trump to office.
Absolutely nailed it, didn't he? Absolutely nailed it. Stop trying to tell us Joe Biden's old. We know. I'll take whatever time I have with Joe Biden 100%. He's done an amazing job, and I'm sticking with him. But yeah, MPLS Care Bear, follow her on XChan, 100%. Just do a search for Care Bear, KERRBEAR. Constantly linking great content like that. There are folks out there, but we're going to have to do this ourselves, people. We just are. We're going to have to do this ourselves. Right now, you've got ABC is characterizing the hearing to try to remove Fani Willis as the Fani Willis misconduct hearing. That's just unacceptable. There has been no misconduct. We're going to have to do it ourselves. We're just going to have to do it ourselves. Amen. Listen up, Jon Stewart. I say that all the time. You know, right wingers like, they want to replace Joe Biden. Oh, no, we don't. Let me tell you something. If Joe Biden died tomorrow, we would weaken and burn his ass all the way through the election. We're not replacing that man. He's our guy. Well, folks, that's what I wanted to share with you today. If you've got any questions, we've got a few minutes left. We can hit the old round table, see what we're talking about. Get your feelings. Anything that I've failed to mention, throw it out there. You know, I love to hear from you. Best audience anywhere. You folks know what the hell is going on. Has anybody heard from Engeron yet? I've actually been focusing on doing that lately. I'll be putting more shorts out, and I've completely neglected TikTok because it became such a cesspool there for a while. I couldn't handle, after watching foreign policy, learning and going as deep as I do into foreign policy for the last 3 to 4 decades, having people link to me some kid in a mail order kefir and his thoughts and feelings on Middle East foreign policy. I couldn't do it. I just had to step away from TikTok. It was driving me insane. Neurogeezer, some great comments today, my friend. Remember that the New York Times was reporting the Her Report as straight news and 30 articles. Guess where JS writers get their idea from what's going? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to have to do this ourselves. We're going to have to do this ourselves. I mean, I will find people reporting straight information to you, and I will keep every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday, we will get together and we will talk really what's going on. And I just want to reiterate again, I am not going to listen to people come into my social media and say, well, Fani Willis, she shouldn't have done this because the optics. No, there are no bad optics. None. Nathan Wade and Fani Willis could date if they wanted to. Nothing to it. Nothing to it. There's nothing inappropriate at all. Yes. I've kicked myself over and over again. I should have jumped in this cycle, ran here in the Texas's first district. I should have run this time, but I didn't. So I'll see you in 2 years. Nathaniel Moran has been useless. Amen. All red. We've got 2 great people running in this primary here in Texas. We really do. And both of them are polling really strong against Ted Cruz. We really have a shot of removing him. People have had enough of this Republican garbage. I appreciate that, Jay Winnett. I really do. We appreciate your commitment and continued to truth, and we will prevail. We will prevail. Yeah, we talked about that. Alexei Navalny has passed. We talked about that. I will tell you, Putin murdered the guy. He did. He was smiling 2 days ago in a court hearing, and he drops dead yesterday. No, I don't buy it. Let me, somebody said, we're all waiting for Engeron saying, let me tell you what this Engeron ruling means. If Trump wants to appeal the defamation case against E. Jean Carroll, he has to post a bond for $84 million. once this ruling is put in place, and a lot of folks are saying it's going to be $370 million is what they're asking for. I would bet that they don't do. I would bet they split that baby. I would bet that they don't come up with a number quite that high, but he will have to pay interest on that. And if he wants to appeal it, even if it's $100 million or $150 million, he has to post that money in a bond to appeal it. That man is cash poor. He does not have cash laying around. He does not. That means he's going to have to grift it out of his idiotic base or borrow it from somebody, and nobody's loaning him money. His empire is crashing. He is going to lose his ability to do business in the state of New York. I'm telling you, this ruling today, that's like cutting his femoral artery. And then he's got the Alvin Bragg case, which I am telling you, folks, people are like, well, nobody's ever done this before. Folks, this is not a hard case. This is not a hard case. It is open and shut. Yes, you can read it in his post. Keith Todd said he is terrified of conviction in civil/state cases. There's no path for a presidential pardon. Absolutely. And you can tell he is terrified. Absolutely terrified. He was raving about, I shouldn't have to be in a courtroom. Even if I'm convicted, there was no crime, whatever that means. Being convicted, is actually the definition of the fact that there was a crime. Do I think he'll be convicted or have a heart attack first? I keep praying for those cheeseburgers. Ann Coulter, I never agree with Ann Coulter, but I found myself the other day agreeing with Ann Coulter. They asked her what Trump could do to heal America. And her response was one word: die. He could die. Come on, cheeseburgers. Yeah, this is going to be, a couple of people have mentioned Laura Trump in the RNC. That is going to be just, wonderful. Rona Romney had connections in the Republican Party and with Republican donors. Laura Trump is going to, starve the Republican Party to death because she does not have the relationship with Republican donors. She just doesn't. They're going to try to blackmail people. The look is going to be horrible. And then she's going to screw every other Republican candidate. The RNC is supposed to back Republican candidates, not just a Republican candidate. And they're going to funnel every penny into the Trump campaign. Hell, they've already said they were going to do that. Laura Trump will be the death of the RNC. Yeah, Carter came out and said it. Every penny from the RNC will go to Donald Trump. All right, folks. Well, look, it is now 11:30 I very much enjoyed our conversation together. I hope the information was useful. See you next Sunday. Let's do this again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the great comments. Enjoy some Texas cities at night.